especially with
Get ready, Friar Faithful. This is the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Jackson swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. He has done it again. Unbelievable.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Schilt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. It's game 2 of today's doubleheader between the Padres and the Philadelphia Phillies as they play the rubber match of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup in game 2 of today's twin billing for the Padres right-hander Dylan Cease and for the Phillies left-hander Christopher Sanchez. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you from inside our San Diego studios. Long time no talk. First pitch is coming up at 3:15 in Philadelphia. We go out to Jesse Agler and Mark Grant at 3:05, and we'll be joined by Mud in just a few minutes as we get ready for game 2. We'll reset everything. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Schilt once again. We'll give you our keys to the game. We'll have a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Christopher Sanchez and much, much more. But first, it's time to once again set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Well, the Padres, after winning game 1 of today's doubleheader, they enter game 2 a record of 46-39. The Phillies enter game 2 50-36. The Padres entered the day just a half game out of the National League's final wild card spot with the win earlier today. The Padres are now 11-15 in their last 26 games. Meanwhile, Philadelphia entered the day sitting in first place in the National League East, 2 games up on the New York Mets, and at least at the early part of the day, Philadelphia not losing any ground because the Brewers beat the Mets in the opening game of a doubleheader earlier in New York. The Phillies entered the day winning 3 of their last 4. Well, the Phillies won on Monday behind Zach Wheeler's brilliant performance, 8 scoreless innings. Phillies won it 4-0. The Padres found a way to win game 2 6-4. And to quickly recap, game 1, or I should say, game 1 of the doubleheader, game 2 of the series earlier today. To quickly recap it for you in case you're just hopping in the car or joining us on this Wednesday and you missed the first game of this doubleheader. Padres got a great starting pitching performance from Nick Pivetta. Pivetta going 6 innings, 1 run given up, 7 hits. He struck out 6, 90 pitches, 64 for strikes. Padres put together a big 5-run top of the second inning. It included rookie right-hander Mick Abel really being unable to throw strikes for the Phillies. Abel would walk 4 batters in that second inning, including a couple of bases-loaded walks to Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jackson Merrill. That gave the Padres a 2-0 lead, and then Manny Machado stepped in, a bases-clearing double to make it 5-0. That was also career hit number 1,995 for Manny, so he enters the second game of this doubleheader, now 5 hits away from that 2,000 mark, so that continues to be an exciting milestone to follow for Manny Machado. Padres made it 6-0 on another bases-loaded walk with Luis Ariz at the plate in the 4th inning. That made it a 6-0 game. From that point on, the Phillies would get closer and closer. It was Kyle Schwarber, a home run in the 6th inning, a solo shot to make it 6-1. Then the Phillies scored 2 against Brian Hoeing in the 7th inning to make it 6-3. Adrian Morejon did a great job. He got the final out of the 7th inning. Then he put together a 1-2-3 8th inning to get the game to the 9th inning at 6-3. Robert Suarez came in, a leadoff single for JT Realmuto, a 2-out single for Brandon And that ended up scoring a run after Real Muto went to second earlier in the inning. Then a base hit for Trey Turner. It brought Kyle Schwarber to the plate, representing the winning run in a 6-4 game. But Robert Suarez, with 2 strikes on Schwarber, went upstairs at 101 miles per hour, struck out Schwarber, and that was the ball game. Final score, the Padres 6 and the Phillies 4. And we'll have the radio highlights from the opening game of this doubleheader coming up in just a little bit. But first, let's go to Philly and check in with Mud.
Now, let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Mark Wrench in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Mud, good to talk to you again from Philly. What'd you get up to during the little break here between games?
How you doing? Just kind of relaxing a little bit, having some Philly cheesesteaks. The broadcasting lounge here, which they call it here at Citizens Bank Park, with the great Tom McCarthy, John Kruk, Scott Fransky, and folks here. They bring up some food, and we were partaking in some Philly cuisine and some chatter about the first game, just talking ball. But it's we're getting ready, teeing up for game 2 here.
I'm sure you and John Kruk, you have some good stories, right? I heard you played in the minor leagues together, right?
We met. We were separate teams. I was the Shreveport Captains AA. He was with the AA Beaumont Golden Gators for the Padres, and I was with the Giants. So first time we met was in Beaumont, but then we were teammates with the Padres when I was traded from the Giants to the Padres in 1987. I tell you what, he's a gem, man. He's one of my favorites. He's not only good for the Phillies broadcast, but he's good for baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. And good to hear you guys caught up in Philadelphia. Obviously, the Phillies will be in town in San Diego next weekend as well. Let's focus on a couple of positives from game 1, Mud. I want to start with Manny Machado. He has that big 3-run double in the second, career hit number 1,995, now 5 away from that milestone of 2,000 hits. Mud, how would you kind of sum up what Manny has meant to this offense in the first 80-plus games of this season?
Well, the way he swings the bat, he's Mr. Consistency. You look at the end of the season, there's going to be 30-plus home runs. There's going to be over 100 RBIs. And, you know, everybody has the ebbs and flows of a season. And the way that Manny, Sammy, for me, well, you know, you can look at Manny, and you don't know whether he's 12 for his last 18 or if he's 0 for his last 18. And that is a sign of a player knowing that he's good, that he's going to break out of it if, in fact, he is in a slump. He's a guy who's confident and doesn't let the little slump kind of bug him a little bit. And it's both sides of the scorecard, really. It's with the offense, it's with the defense, and it rubs off on other guys. I mean, they see what Manny does in pressure situations. When he comes through, it's great. And when he doesn't, hey, you know what? It was a fluke. Get him next time. But he does. And when, you know, the hitters around him, when they get on for him, he's a threat, and he drives guys in. So he's just a bonus in this lineup.
Mud, before we focus on today's game, I just want to ask you about Adrian Morejon. What a job in game 1, 4 up, 4 down. He continues to be so good. You know, I've talked about it, Mud, when you put in the context with Morejon of this journey for him to this point to become the reliever he's become. It really is remarkable. He's one of the best left-handed relievers in the game right now.
He really is, Sammy. And you know what? He's the kind of guy you root for. Like you just mentioned, what he has gone through with the surgeries and the injuries and stuff like that. A healthy Adrian Morejon is one of the best left-handers out of the bullpen for any ball club when you look at it. The easy, and you know what? When you get down to mechanics, I watch Morejon, and we talk about max effort guys.
Yeah.
This guy is a nice, easy, smooth delivery, and he's pumping 98, 99 out of it. And then he's got that wicked breaking ball and off-speed stuff. And, you know, he moved up the pecking order. Remember last year, of course, you remember, but Tanner Scott was here during the run, and then, you know, he was a free agent. So you gotta have that integral lefty into the bullpen. So he moves up, and, you know, he can close. He can stop a threat in the 6th. He can come in the 8th and face 2 left-handers, and he has just been magnificent. He is fun to watch.
Yeah, he really has. Let's focus on this matchup in game 2. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. He had an up and down month of June, a kind of a tough outing last time out against the Reds. What will you be looking for from Dylan Cease today against obviously a very talented Philly lineup?
The one thing I look for is that Dylan Cease has going for him is he's gotten a chance to see this Phillies team firsthand from the dugout. You know, you watch video, whatever the case may be, but a couple of games to scout this lineup and the hitters that they have. And one thing I want to look at, you know, which Dylan Cease are we going to see? Last time out, 4 innings, he gave up 3 earned runs. 4 starts ago, he went 7 innings, punched out 11. I think, Sam, we can find out what type of Dylan Cease we're going to see, and I want to see fewer than 12 pitches. Let's put it on a dozen. Fewer than 12 pitches in the first inning.
Mm-hmm.
So that means pumping strikes, quality strikes, getting quick outs, and then hopefully that slider is working, and because he's got the whole repertoire. And no big misses today. Let's focus on that. Talked earlier about missing big with the fastball, missing big with the slider. So hopefully no big misses this afternoon in Game 2.
Out of curiosity, Mud, is there any benefit to just seeing a lineup earlier in the day? I mean, can that be an advantage for a pitcher? I know Dylan, I don't know if he was in the dugout or not, or if he's probably watching on TV in the clubhouse or at the hotel, whatever. But is there an advantage to that, to just seeing a game from them just earlier in the day?
I'm a firm believer it could only help a pitcher facing a team, especially in a doubleheader. You see reactions. Pitchers might have different pitches, but then on the other hand, you look at guys' reactions, even on a take, on a breaking ball, on a fastball, certain counts. You remember counts, certain pitches that were thrown. There might be a pitch that you think about the next the time you face that certain hitter. So yes, it can only, as far as I'm concerned, it can only be an advantage for a pitcher to see a team and then pitch and face them in Game 2 of a doubleheader.
All right, Mud, good insight. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 3:05 here in San Diego. Thanks so much.
All right, Sammy, be well.
All right, Mud, you too. That is Mark Grant joining us from Philadelphia as we get ready for Game 2 of this doubleheader between the Padres and the Philadelphia Phillies. Again, right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres, and it is left-hander Christopher Sanchez, really good lefty, on the mound for the Phillies. This is going to be admittedly a little bit different of a pregame show. We're going to probably dive back into Game 1 of this doubleheader a little bit more than how we typically would look back at the last game. For example, for you really intense and very detail-oriented Padres Radio Network listeners, you notice we've not done our Padres Rewind yet, but we will do that when we return. We'll go back through the radio highlights from the Game 1 win of this doubleheader, and then we'll get to our normal segments, keys to the game, a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup. We'll take yet another look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Much, much more to do as we get ready for the nightcap of this doubleheader in Philadelphia. First pitch coming up at 3:15 as the Padres now go for a series win against the Phillies. We're back with more on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming up at 3:15 in Philadelphia for the final game of today's doubleheader, and now the rubber match of a 3-game series between the Padres and the Phillies. Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres, and the nightcap of today's doubleheader, left-hander Christopher Sanchez on the mound for the Phillies. Really good starting pitching matchup in Game 2. We'll dive much deeper into this starting pitching matchup coming up a little bit later. Well, we already had a full 9 innings of baseball today. Let's go back through it as we rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Our starting pitching matchup in the opener of today's doubleheader, rookie Mick Abel on the mound for the Phillies, veteran Nick Pivetta on the mound for the Padres. Both guys threw a scoreless opening frame. In the top of the second, Xander Bogaerts drew a 1-out walk. Jay Cronenworth singled. Then Mick Abel just could not find the strike zone at all. He walked Elias Diaz to load the bases. He then walked Fernando Tatis Jr. to bring in a run. He walked Jackson Merrill to bring in another. Just like that, Padres had a 2-0 lead. The bases were still all loaded up for Manny Machado.
Manny swings, rips it over the head of the third baseman, Sosa, and down the left field line. Diaz has scored. Tatis has scored. Merrill is on his way. There will not be a relay. A 3-run double for Manny Machado. And the Padres get a big hit with runners in scoring position. It is now 5-0.
Padres' first hit with runners in scoring position in 3 games. That was it for Abel. He lasted just an inning and 2/3, allowed 5 runs. Padres then rallied again against Phillies reliever Max Lazar, a leadoff walk. A couple of singles from Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jackson Merrill loaded the bases with 1 out, and the bases still loaded. It was Luis Arraez at the plate.
And Luis takes high, ball 4. 7th walk issued by Philly pitching already this afternoon, and the 3rd with the bases loaded. Diaz will come in to score, and the Padre lead is now 6-0.
Padres had that 6-0 lead for a while. Early story in this game was Nick Pivetta. He was terrific through 5 scoreless innings. Padres still led 6-0 as he took the mound for the bottom of the 6th inning. Kyle Schwarber led off for the Phils.
First pitch swinging, Schwarber in the air to deep right field. You can forget that one. Phillies are on the board thanks to a long home run to right by Schwarber. His 26th of the season, and it is now 6-1.
That was all Pivetta gave up in the 6th inning. He was done 6 innings, 1 run, 7 hits, 6 strikeouts, and no walks. Padres still led 6-1 going to the bottom half of the 7th inning. Brian Hoeing came in. JT Realmuto hit a leadoff double. With 1 out, it was Edmundo Sosa.
Hoeing's 1-2 pitch is grounded towards third base. That's a fair ball past Machado, and it'll get a run home. Realmuto crosses the plate. Kicks away from Sheets in the left field corner. Sosa on his way to third. The throw, the tag, not in time. Took a funny hop down in the left field corner. That probably gave Edmundo Sosa an extra 90 feet. And now 6-2 here in the 7th.
A wild pitch from Hoeing then scored Sosa from third base. All of a sudden, it was 6-3. Hoeing walked Trey Turner at the top of the Phillies lineup. Adrian Morejon then came in to face the left-handed hitting Kyle Schwarber. The count went to 3-2, but Schwarber grounded out to end the inning. Morejon came back out, pitched a 1-2-3, bottom of the 8th inning. So the Padres had a 6-3 lead going bottom 9. Robert Suarez came in. Suarez gave up a leadoff single to JT Realmuto. He moved to second base on a flyout. Brandon Marsh then pinch hit with 2 outs.
That's a novel thought. Hard hit, one hopper into center field and a base hit. Realmuto rounding third. He'll come in to score. Pinch hit RBI single, Brandon Marsh. It is 6-4, and the tying run is going to come to the plate here in the bottom of the 9th inning.
That tying run coming to the plate in the form of Trey Turner. He singled into center. Marsh, and I don't care that the Padres, still won this game. It was an inexplicable base running play by Marsh to try to go to third base. Jackson Merrill on the base hit Marsh tries to go to third. Jackson throws it from center. Manny Machado applies the tag. The initial call at third base, the runner out, the game over. But then the Phillies challenge, and on review, turns out Manny never got Marsh, so Marsh was safe at third. Trey Turner safe at first base. The tying runs aboard. Turner then stole second. So all of a sudden, Instead of the game being over on an outfield assist from Jackson Merrill, the Phillies had the tying runs on second and third, 2 outs, and the very dangerous Kyle Schwarber at the plate against Suarez.
Suarez delivers and a swing and a miss. Got him to chase a fastball way up at 101. And Suarez comes on to earn the save, his 24th of the season to lead the National League. And the Padres take game 1 of the doubleheader here in Philadelphia by a final of 6-4.
And that was that. Padres win it 6-4 to take the middle game of this 3-game series. Final totals: Padres 6 runs, 5 hits, 2 errors. They left on 8. The Phillies 4 runs, 12 hits, no errors. They left on 7. How about that? Padres got out hit 12-5 in this game. Nick Pivetta, the winning pitcher, he's 9-2. Mick Abel, the losing pitcher, he's 2-2. Robert Suarez, his 24th save of the season. But Padres, most importantly, get away with a 6-4 win, taking the opener of this doubleheader. Well, Mike Shildt spoke right after the game. We'll hear from Mike after game 2 as well, but let's revisit what Mike Shildt had to say just a little while ago after the Padres 6-4 win earlier.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
What'd you make of the at-bats today, Mike?
I made a lot of them. You know, that's the we do that, this team's going to be virtually unstoppable. Really is. We were very stingy. We're going to give in anything that wasn't on the plate. And, you know, gosh, amazing job. And then when you get on the plate, you know, you talk about slug, you're going to get more slug when you're on the plate more consistently. And just really, really good at bats. Top of the lineup, set the tone. They were fantastic. You know, Toddy, Jackson's at bats were tremendous. Going the other way, taking his walks, working his walks. You know, Manny with a big swing to clear him. That was obviously great, and I thought Bogey's at bats were good as well. So, you know, we are stingy like that. You know, again, there's no absolute. But if you do that with the talent we have in the zone, then we're going to continue to be a very dangerous team.
Obviously, that is far easier said than done, but they have done that before, and I think it's probably been a focus here to get back to that. Like, what did you see today or leading into today that kind of led to them having those?
That's great. We've done it. I mean, just, you know, they need, I mean, listen, man, the game could be challenging when guys are painting on both sides of the plate and, you know, they're a little bit off of it. You know, guys can have a tendency to expand. But like I said, you know, we got back to being stubborn today.
What do you think of Nick?
Oh, he's fantastic. You know, outside of Schwarber, you know, he made him pay. But I thought Nick was great. You know, he made big pitches, controlled counts. Breaking ball was really good. Fastball was where he wanted it. I like the fact he was able to, you know, own the inner half, you know, in and off. I thought that was really, really good. Guys played some defense behind him. She's made a nice little play. Manny was double play ball. Another nice play by Manny. You know, so I thought he was fantastic. He threw it, you know, that line up through 6.
When he controls those counts, he like really controls them. He's done it the last couple starts. What is it about him that he just kind of?
Yeah, the math's there. I mean, the math's there, but definitely the math's there for Nick. You know, control the counts. Just a matter of getting on, boom, 0-1, winning the 1-1, which he's really doing a nice job of. And then he's got really good stuff. You know, fastball had some really good life today. Secondary pitches are good. He's, like I said, both sides of the plate, elevating the ball when he needed to. I thought he was tremendous with him and Diaz.
Obviously, we're only kind of halfway through the season, but for him to have had this season and given you guys what he's given you thus far, like, what do you just kind of make of, in general, how important he's been to this group?
He's been huge. I mean, you know, listen, I give a lot of credit to, you know, all the starters. You know, we've had some, you know, we've been hit a little bit there. And, you know, we've had some guys really step up, and Nick's been the guy that stepped up, and we needed it. You know, a veteran guy that's come in that, you know, has some real time in this league, that has a pedigree, been on some good teams, and he's fit right in. He's taken the challenge to, and we don't want to heap anything more on than needs to, but he's taken the rightful challenge to be an anchor for our starting pitching. And as we all know, that starting pitching anchor spots are huge.
What did you see on the play, and it looked like may have tagged him at first, and then.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta always be careful with some of the replay stuff. Those guys do a good job. They look at it. I think, they have more angles than I do, and unemotional eyeballs on it in New York. I looked at it, and outside of one angle that was still iffy for me, it was kind of like, I'm not sure we're going to be able to overturn that, but they may have had or seen something that was more clear, and I'm confident they did it. They get it right.
Same with Robert, just a lot of contact recently.
Yeah, contact. Maybe it's really about the patient. It's always going to be, talk about our hitters. We were more stingy on the plate, and, we want to be more stingy in better spots with our pitches. Nick was today. Warren was fantastic. I don't want to forget him either because he was great for us today again. Just looks like it's too much middle. Too many across the heart of the plate. And so, when Robert's good, like any pitcher's good, he's able to command his fastball and, have the secondary changeup to complement it.
Doubleheader's a challenge, but like the off day yesterday, because of the rain, and the off day tomorrow, does it make it a little bit less of a challenge for you?
I got 2 bullpens. I'm gonna be out for a while.
Okay, sounds good, Rube. It's the sandwiched off days help. You get the benefit of the off day from yesterday, and you have to pay the fiddler today a little bit, but guys are gamers, ready to go. We got the first one now. We're looking to grab the second one and make this a solid road trip.
And obviously every game to go, but more at home, being able to do what he did is also, I assume,
it's huge. It's huge. To able to come in and get Schwarber and go back out and grab a 1, 2, 3, and so we don't have to use another guy to get out of the eighth, and again, killed their momentum, and Suarez did his part. Now we're set up to have some guys to bring it home in the second game.
That was Padres manager Mike Schultz after the Padres 6-4 win in game 1 of today's doubleheader. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game coverage coming up later on this evening following the conclusion of today's doubleheader. And you heard Mike reference there having some other guys available out of the bullpen to then pitch in game 2. Padres are in a pretty good spot with the bullpen, I would say, entering game 2. I'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later in our pregame coverage, and we'll continue our pregame coverage when we return. We'll also give you the starting lineup for the Padres in game 2, our keys to the game, a full breakdown of the pitching matchup in game 2 between Dylan Cease and Christopher Sanchez. First pitch coming up at 3:15 in Philadelphia. We go back out to Jesse and Mud at 3:05. Much more to do on our pregame coverage. We continue after this. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 3:15 in Philadelphia for the second game of today's doubleheader. Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres in Game 2. Left-hander Christopher Sanchez on the mound for the Phillies. Still a lot to do before first pitch. We'll give you our keys to the game. We'll also have a full breakdown of our starting pitching matchup. We'll take another look at the out-of-town scoreboard, but first, let's take you around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
A few headlines that we have not got to yet today. Braves ace Spencer Schwellenbach has a fractured pitching elbow. He becomes the latest Atlanta starter sidelined with a long-term injury. He was placed on the IL earlier today. The team did not disclose how long Schwellenbach will be out for, but MLB.com reporting that the second-year right-hander won't throw for at least 4 weeks. So this is going to be a lengthy absence for Spencer Schwellenbach. The Braves, a team that have not had a good season so far, and they're dealing with a ton of pitching injuries and injuries in general, and Spencer Schwellenbach now the latest to go down for Atlanta. Rangers reinstated first baseman Jake Berger from the 10-day IL earlier today before their game later against the Baltimore Orioles. He missed the last 10 games with a left oblique strain. Now, interesting part of this, the corresponding move, the Rangers optioning all-star third baseman Josh Young to AAA Round Rock. Young had been batting .237 with 8 home runs, 35 RBIs in 75 games this season, batting just .152 in his last 11 games. The reason that made me really raise my eyebrows, you got to remember, Josh Young was a huge part of that 2023 World Series winning team for the Rangers. He had 23 home runs that season. Certainly, you felt like he was a cornerstone of the Rangers moving forward, but he dealt with injuries last season, didn't play a ton, wasn't great when he was in there. Not a great start to his season in 2025, and the Rangers asking him to go down to AAA. So that's kind of a shocker when you think about what Josh Young at one time appeared to be for the Rangers, but again, that was the move. Berger off the IL and Young down to AAA. Other injury news, significant. Tigers placing outfielder Kerry Carpenter on the 10-day IL earlier today with a right hamstring strain, and Tigers manager AJ Hinch indicating that Carpenter will not return before the All-Star break. And that is a quick look at some headlines from the last handful of hours across the major leagues. And again, we'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up later as well. Let's check in on our injury report before Game 2 of this twin billing.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, nothing really new to report as far as the injury report, which is, I suppose, good news in the middle game of a doubleheader. As we know, Xander Bogaerts came out of Sunday's game with a cramp in his left quad, but he's been back in the lineup the last couple of games. Bryce Harper returning to the Phillies lineup after dealing with right wrist inflammation. He had been out since June 5th, and as we know, he returned on Monday and then was back in there for Game 1 of the doubleheader today. I'll have more on that in a moment, but Bryce Harper returning on Monday for the Phillies. And then just a quick update on Yu Darvish. We got into this a little bit earlier, but Darvish did pitch in another simulated game yesterday at Lake Elsinore. He went 4 innings and 64 pitches, and now we'll wait to see what the next step is for Yu Darvish as he works his way back. And that is a quick look at the injury updates on this Wednesday between games of today's doubleheader in Philadelphia. A look at the lineups today in Game 2 for the Phillies and the Padres. You heard me mention Bryce Harper. One item of note, from the lineup for the Phillies in game 2. Bryce Harper not in the lineup for the Phillies. So the very top of their order, shortstop Trey Turner leading off, Kyle Schwarber batting second in left field, Alec Boehm at third base batting third, Nick Castellanos, the DH, is batting cleanup, and I'll leave it to Jesse and Mudd to give you the full lineup. But again, Bryce Harper not in the lineup for game 2 of today's doubleheader, and we'll see if he appears off the bench at some point for Rob Thompson. Meanwhile, the lineup for the Padres in game 2, it looks like this. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field leading off, Jackson Merrill in center batting second, Manny Machado, the DH, batting third, Luis Arraez at first base batting cleanup, Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop, batting fifth, Gavin Sheets in left field batting sixth, Jose Iglesias at third base batting seventh, Jake Cronenworth at second base batting eighth, and Martin Maldonado doing the catching and batting ninth, with right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound. When we come back, we'll take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, our keys to the game. We'll tell you what to watch for in today's game, a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup in game 2 between Dylan Cease and Christopher Sanchez, and then we send things out to Jesse and Mudd at 3:05. We continue our pregame coverage after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming up at 3:15. We go out to Jesse and Mark Grant in just about 10 minutes for game 2 of today's doubleheader as the Padres now go for a series win in Philly. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. Okay, we have a lot to do in a little bit of time. You're ready? Let's go. Keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number one, keep on having some success with runners in scoring position. Padres in game one of the doubleheader did have 2 hits with runners in scoring position. Keep in mind, they went 0 for 20 on Monday and Sunday combined with runners in scoring position. Keep on finding ways to cash in. That's key number one. Key number two, Dylan Cease limiting the walks. Dylan Cease has issued 3 or more walks in 4 of his last 5 starts, a total of 15 walks given up in his last 27 2/3 innings. And key number 3, no more Schwarbombs. We told you in game 1 of this series, Padres did a real nice job against Kyle Schwarber. Well, in game 2, they gave up a home run to him. He can be very, very dangerous in that department. He has now reached base safely in each of his last 21 games against the Padres, going all the way back to May of 2022. 12 home runs in that span and 23 RBIs. You got to limit Kyle Schwarber, and that's a quick look at our keys to today's game. Let's take another look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
Take an updated look at what's going on around the major leagues today. We have a number of doubleheaders today as well. Red Sox beat the Reds in the resumption of a suspended game earlier at Fenway 5-3. Game 2 of that doubleheader is coming up in a little bit, kind of a quasi doubleheader with the suspended game getting resumed, but you get what I mean. Brewers and the Mets, a doubleheader in New York today. Brewers beating the Mets 7-2 in game 1. Tigers beating the Nationals 11-2 in DC in game 1 of that doubleheader. Other finals already today. Pirates blanked the Cardinals 5-0 in Pittsburgh. The Rays beat the A's 6-5 in Tampa Bay. As far as games coming up, we told you about the Tigers and Nationals, game 2 of a doubleheader. We told you about the Brewers and Mets, game 2 of their doubleheader coming up a little bit later as well. Reds and the Red Sox also at 4:10 at Fenway in the second game they'll play today, or at least finish today. Twins and the Marlins at 3:40 in Miami. It's the Yankees and the Blue Jays in Toronto at 4:07. The Angels and the Braves in Atlanta at 4:15. Guardians and the Cubs in Chicago at 5 o'clock. Orioles and the Rangers in Arlington at 5:05. Astros and the Rockies in Colorado at 5:40. Royals and the Mariners in Seattle at 6:40. Giants and the Diamondbacks in Arizona at 6:40. And finally, White Sox and the Dodgers in LA at 7:10. And we'll have more on those games coming up a little bit later in our post-game coverage and what will be our fourth and final look at the out-of-town scoreboard today. I told you earlier, I'm like your Google Alerts right now, giving you the scores whenever you want them. All right, we continue on as we walk you up towards first pitch. Let's tell you what to watch for in the second game of this doubleheader.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in game 2 of the doubleheader. How do the Padres navigate their bullpen here in game 2? Couple of aspects to this. Number one, Adrian Morejon already pitched in game 1, did a great job. Robert Suarez pitched in game 1, got the save. Now, you would imagine no way that Morejon or Suarez pitch in game 2. You rarely ever see that with a guy pitching both ends of a doubleheader. However, the good news is that you have Adam, you have Estrada, 2 real high leverage guys that have not pitched yet today. So you'll have them. But the real important question, I think, is this. When you got to face Kyle Schwarber in a big spot and you want a lefty, who are you going to? You don't have Morejon, who would be the guy. It means your options are going to be Yuki Matsui or Wandy Peralta. It's going to have to be one of those guys when you want to go lefty on lefty against a Schwarber or a Bryce Harper coming off the bench in game 2. And that could be the most critical part of this game. So how do the Padres navigate Schwarber and Harper in particular for the Phillies when they want to go lefty on lefty with no Adrian Morejon? We saw in a big spot, 7th inning, they went to Morejon to face Schwarber and Harper. How do they navigate that with no Morejon? They do have Matsui. They do have Wandy Peralta. That's what to watch for in game 2 of this doubleheader. That's going to be an interesting aspect of this game if it's close late with those guys coming up in a big spot. Let's dive into our pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Christopher Sanchez.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
On the mound for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease. He's 3-7 with a 4.53 ERA and 17 starts this year, 91 innings and a third. He alternated wins and losses in his 5 June starts, allowing 13 runs over 14 innings of work and 3 losses, but he allowed just 1 run in 13 2/3 innings in the 2 wins. Cease had a tough outing his last time out, gave up 3 earned runs in 4 innings against the Reds. He's 0-5 with a 6.31 ERA and 9 road starts this season. Meanwhile, he has a 2.76 ERA in 8 starts at home. He's faced the Phillies just once before. He gave up 5 runs in 6 innings last April against them in San Diego. This will be his first ever start in Philly. And Alec Bohm, by the way, hit a 2-run home run against them last April in San Diego. And what do you know it, Bohm is batting 3rd in the Phillies lineup here today. For the Phillies, left-hander Christopher Sanchez, the 28-year-old, is having a great year. 6-2, a 2.79 ERA in 16 starts. He was excellent in June. 5 consecutive quality outings, a 1.85 ERA in 34 innings. If you go back to the start of May, 8 out of his 10 starts have been quality outings. Sanchez was outstanding on Thursday in Houston. Went 6 innings, allowed just 1 run. He struck out 11, walked nobody. The Phillies have given him not much run support at all. They've scored 3 runs or fewer in each of his last 4 starts. So we'll see if the Phillies flip that script today with Christopher Sanchez on the mound. The good starting pitching matchup, Christopher Sanchez against Dylan Cease. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. When we come back, we go back out to Jesse Agler and Mark Grant. They have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, Padres fans.